Well,
Yeah, and that was a J treaty about, but apparently there was four. And
there was four.
one
He
got-
said,
one
but he
was
never did.
stolen or-
He never did say. I don't think which one that was stolen.
No. Okay, well, I guess I'll find that later.
Okay. So, I'm not sure exactly where to start, but we had a very good discussion, you and I don't know how many years ago now, at the Silver Lake Powwow, and you were there with Plenty Canada, and you guys were splitting root and dancing rice and all kinds of
Yeah, I remember that.
neat fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I'd passed you some tobacco at that time because I had an additional spirit helper coming in, and I needed support people for that spirit to come in and help me. And so we had a discussion about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about everything that we talked about. But at that point in time, I'd had, when I saw the canoe and everything, I had an instantaneous type of vision into the future.
Right.
Now, subsequent to having done this build, I don't feel that everything has come to pass yet
Right.
from what I saw, but things are moving along. And so I wanted to thank you very much for agreeing to step in as one of my helpers for my spirit.
Thank you. You're
and
welcome.
and I wanted to thank you about that, but it's tricky sometimes when you're mixed blood, and so sometimes you get I don't know, like reverse racism with Indigenous people who are darker skinned.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they don't necessarily want to hear teachings coming out of a white looking face,
I fully agree.
right?
Yeah.
And so I can understand and feel their pain with that. But on the other hand, a lot of white people don't want to hear Indigenous issues or Indigenous teachings coming out of a white looking face either.
So you're in, almost in a lose-lose situation?
I'm in a lose-lose situation in at times, right? So teachings that I was given was that I'm a bridge between cultures, and that bridges can be used and bridges can be abused,
Yeah.
and that I kind of have a unique situation, and for myself, because my dad's adopted, we don't really know necessarily what his background is. He was raised in a British family,
Okay.
and my mom's Acadian and Micmac. And so I'm doing the three-legged dance with two legs. And I can't really pick sides because it's like destroying part of what's inside of me for me to pick sides.
Yeah.
And so I try to step gently if I can, you know?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you identify as Indigenous?
I identify as Indigenous, but I always say that I'm Micmac and Acadian.
Okay, so
So I
you
don't say I'm 100% Native. I don't claim to be First Nation status.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah.
I try to be extremely upfront.
Okay.
Right from the
I'll give
beginning.
you my grandfather's opinion on that. Is these people that identify as Métis. He wasn't a firm believer in that, and that's why I asked you.
He wasn't.
He was not. If you were Mi'kmaq, then you identify as Mi'kmaq. You don't identify as Métis. Métis, they come from the Red River Valley. And so that was another way the government kind of split us up. But that's what he believed in. And and then he was asked why, because it builds the nation stronger. But then you get racist from your own people, and you get racist from the other side.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I heard him talk about that because he was never in that situation. We were never put in that situation.
But I mean, I know-
Even though hardly any one of us are full blood anymore, but because my skin is darker, people are going to listen to me more.
Maybe not.
Maybe,
I don't
maybe
know.
not.
I don't know.
No.
And so the thing is like I spent a fair bit of time with your grandfather.
Yeah.
And talked with him and some of the other elders a lot.
Right.
And so having come to understand my own personal genetic history from the East and talking with them because I'm living in Ontario, I've been told that I'm considered extended family of the Anishinaabe, which would include the Algonquin, Cree, Ojibwe, Nipissing, Mississauga,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
like that whole group.
Yeah.
And so I never had any problems with your grandfather about any of that. Embraced in.
Yeah.
And, I listened to everything that he had to say.
Yeah.
And so when he was talking about, Seven Fires Prophecy, and when he was talking about his Circle of All Nations and what he wanted to do with Victoria Island and all kinds of things,
Yeah.
And he came and helped with a friend of mine and I. Well, she's mostly the one that's permanently there, but in the east more, there's a lake where the loons migrate, and the Ministry of Natural Resources and stuff want to take aggregate off the side of the hill and contaminate the water and all this kind of stuff. And he came and he did a pipe ceremony for us.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so I really revered his knowledge and, his life experience. He was quite spry,
Yeah.
into his older age and still doing an awful lot of things. And I miss him a lot because we haven't really had anyone be able to really step into his shoes.
No.
And I don't know that we should necessarily have one person step into his shoes.
No.
I
Maybe
think-
it should be a national council of elders.
You know,
You know.
and some agreement together, which would be nice on moving forward. But he was very open and very understanding.
Very
And
blunt.
And blunt, yes, and very blunt. And he was one of the ones was telling me, about being a bridge and keep going forward and you just go gently. And so I've kind of taken it upon myself to sort of open doors if I can. And so if somebody else, the teachings that I was given, essentially was to speak for those who have no voice.
Right.
And then help them find their voice.
Yeah. Because a lot of us have no voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to try to create space and place for the dialogue
Yeah.
that they can speak.
Yeah.
And so, I try to, step forward sometimes where I can, and then if somebody else is ready to move in or has skills or interest or whatever, I back up and let them go forward. And so sometimes somebody can maybe hear something out of my face, maybe the first time round, but then they'll hear it out of the darker face, or they'll hear it out of somebody else's firsthand
How does that make you feel?
experience.
Can I just, sorry, I have to stop for just a sec. Have to get some more.
How does that make you feel?
I feel very proud for them.
But what about for yourself? You're the one that initiated this.
I don't really
Yeah, see now that
I don't really I still feel I'm part of it, right? But I don't need to.
so you're okay with just being in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're the one that initiated this conversation.
Then hopefully I can still be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the conversation hopefully will keep enlarging.
Yeah, it's just like that canoe trip that I went on, where the conversation began, and then I'm doing my part to keep it going. Yeah, and I understand how you feel.
Yeah, you just kind of, once in a while maybe, but let it flow where it needs to go,
Yeah,
and try not to, control it or,
you step on anyone's toes.
well, you're probably going to step on somebody's
Yeah,
toes.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the way it is, right?
Yeah.
But just sort of let it flow, right? And everyone heals at a different rate, and they're in a different place,
Yeah.
and we can't, as Indigenous people, we can't progress until we're bringing everyone with us. So help them, just by being there. Ask them what they want, ask them what they need.
The indigenous folk you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Ask them what they want, ask them what they need.
yeah.
But you can't make everybody happy all of the time, even when the society's working.
Oh, well, that I can understand that. I mean, just recently there, somebody said something pretty negative about me, and it had to do with, I guess, the Algonquins of Ontario. Somebody from Golden Lake had mentioned me in a negative way, and they wouldn't tell me who it was. I just said, oh.
Yeah, it's
I will arrange all that.
Bleep it?
Bleep.
Erase it?
We don't need that.
but
Yeah.
but there isn't anything you can really do about it. It's their issue and their and if they don't want to talk to you yourself,
Yeah. Yeah, and then to quickly realize that it's their.
it's theirs,
Yeah.
right? But it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt or whatever, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that, like, oh my goodness, couldn't we be so much better if we were all on the same team? Couldn't we be all much better if we were all working
Yeah.
towards, if
Well,
everyone could see the big picture?
Fulfill the prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the
I mean,
sun
that's
fires.
sort of the ultimate, right? I mean, we're trying to work on the daily to daily, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, sometimes if I'll say to people, sometimes, like, try and look at the big picture. And, I find it hard sometimes because sometimes I'm like a lot of mouse energy or squirrel energy, and I'm like seeing the little details and trying to work things out. But I'm trying to, like, grandfather, you gotta look at the big picture too, like you gotta try and balance that eagle, seeing everything, the big picture with putting the details together, right? And so, like, yeah, it's really hard, especially with brain injury stuff, that to kind of do that. But seeing the bigger picture, other than your pain or your issue or your whatever at the moment.
Yeah.
And I've had some people say things to me like, they don't believe in treaties.
Non-native people?
Native people.
Native people themselves?
Mm-hmm.
And what was their reasoning behind that?
They didn't continue the conversation.
Oh, it just stopped right there.
Yeah, that was sort of like the conversation ender, and stuff. And so I'm not sure whether they're sitting in their pain of treaties not being honored, or whether they know and understand that Indigenous nations had treaties amongst each other as well. And certain things, let's say, like the two-row wampum, or this other one perhaps that you were talking about,
Well, I
that
know
grandfather
there's,
had.
Just recently, I knew about it already, but it's rebought back up. Was the dish in one spoon? That was a treaty between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, and when it came to harvesting rights.
Right.
Yeah, so if you came with that symbol or carrying these objects, they knew that you were coming in peace.
Yeah.
And you're coming because we can't find whatever we're coming for here. We can't find it here. The same with you guys. And so, to me, when we made treaties amongst our nations, we pretty well kept our word.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, if the treaties were made with wampum, It becomes more of a sacred thing. It's
Yeah.
not the same thing as a North American sign your name on a contract,
No, and
right?
the ink's not even dry yet, and they're breaking the
And they're
treaty.
breaking it, or they're planning on not honoring it right from the beginning, and just going through the theatrics of doing it. I'd had a discussion with some Iroquois people because I kind of felt sort of inspired with spirit that the two row wampum is actually sort of encoding right relationships between something or someone and its other. And so within the Circle of Life teachings, you realize and know that you have a place, and everything else around you has equal dignity and equal right to existence, and you negotiate your existence through give and take. And so you were talking about harvesting when the black flies were out, and I'm thinking, oh, blood sacrifice. Because you're giving back. You're giving back, right? You can't just take. You can't just take.
Well,
You have to.
we go in knowing that this is going to happen.
Yeah, this is going to happen, right? But then the other thing is like, if I'm taking medicine for someone, let's say my friend got poison ivy really badly, and I went to get some jewel weed for them, and it's like, okay, I'm asking you, jewel weed, to help my friend, and I'm going to honor you with the tobacco, but I'm also going to pop some seeds here and help you germinate. You know, like because it's a give and take, right, and stuff, and then I have my prayer and whatever with my friend, and say, this is what I've done for you with this jewel weed. Use it in a good way, and lo and behold, she got some relief out of it. Thank heavens, she got a good dose of it.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't get no relief.
Didn't get a relief last year
No.
there at all.
I guess maybe it was too set in now.
Too set in, or you were just way too exposed.
Yeah.
And maybe the jewel weed was a little farther on in the season. It was a drier,
Oh yeah. Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, because
But I was also taking those Benadryls.
oh yeah, the Benadryls and everything
And then I
too.
read that they're a certain percentage, or they become allergic,
Oh,
and you break out in a rash.
with the Benadryl, you become allergic to the Benadryl. Oh,
And so I was probably in that percentile.
you could have been. You could
Yeah.
very well have been. But then we had this other standby remedy there.
And because I'm breaking out in another rash.
You don't know which rash which rash is beside which rash
it.
and stuff.
So the rash is aggravating the rash, the poison ivy rash.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a whole
Yeah,
history.
that's a whole history thing. But
Yeah.
anyways, I was thinking and wondering about, for example, the two-row being right relationships encoded in wampum. And then grandfather had that friendship belt,
Three-figure.
the three-figure friendship belt, welcoming belt. And it's the background spirit or knowledge behind that would be about right relationships, but I don't know that the meaning really translated over to the Europeans adequately,
No.
right?
No.
So
Well, even if they did comprehend what the true meaning was, they
they ignored
quickly forgot it or ignored it completely.
Yeah.
And because of the cross to right here would have signified that they're a little higher than the two people we're holding, was the French and the English. But they were led by the cross. And I think that's why the cross is in there. William used to talk about that in Catholic religion.
it. Yeah, it's really tricky. It's really tricky. I have a hard time kind of getting my mind around it, and I don't know how much of it is that some of that higher knowledge about some of that wampum and stuff was more Grand Council business, and so it wasn't necessarily really common knowledge. I just know that I've been dreaming and whatever about wampum for a few years now. And knowing and understanding that this is they talk about a covenant or whatever, and what a non-Indigenous person's society, a colonial mind would think of it, and what a true Indigenous mind would think of it are kind of like two different things,
Totally.
and translating it over.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for people to know and understand that there's a difference between peace and friendship treaties and treaties. I hope there's something in there. I hope there was something in there. The way you were hiding it, it was like you had some beer or something.
Yeah.
And just getting a little bit dry. But you know that there's a difference between the treaties, that they're the friendship, peace and friendship type treaties, where you're negotiating your existence, and then these other treaties, like the numbered treaties and whatever, where there was land given up, and you know things were more, you know, like shotgun wedding, forced issues and stuff.
But I mean, another way to look at it is how many chiefs really understood what they were, you know, signing away. You know.
Well, they probably didn't, but
No.
on the other hand, they had them over a barrel in terms of, do you want food?
Yeah.
Do you want clothing? You know, the buffalo's gone, or whatever.
Yeah, if not, then we'll send in our armed forces.
You know, so coming from the East Coast, we had peace and friendship treaties,
As well.
and I don't know whether or not. Well, this was with the British, but we had treaty before then too. But this was with the British, and I think it was probably based on those circle of life type of teachings, and the two row that the Iroquois Haudenosaunee peoples had made with the British and the Dutch in the States. It was like we should be able to have that kind of thing as well. But they were smart enough to put things in there like fishing and hunting and whatever rights. But I don't think that there was wampum made for those ones.
No.
Because they were 1752
If
and
they
whatever.
were, they
But you know, they're stolen or they're gone or
sitting
whatever.
in some museum in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for the early beginnings of Canada, those were the relationships on the Canadian side of the border, whatever it started on the Canadian side of the border. But when you're going to school, right, you get your British history, and it's the 13 colonies of the United States, and then somehow they come up and around into the St. Lawrence, and they take out Fort Louisbourg, and then, you know, they hit Quebec City and and whatever, and then next thing you know, the railroad's going across Canada,
Yeah,
and then we have
yeah.
Confederation,
Yeah.
and there's an awful lot of messy business in between there and
Yeah.
stuff that isn't really talked about, but the basis of the beginnings were intended to be peace and friendship.
Well, yeah, because we welcome them with open arms over here. Because I used to, like me, I grew up listening to William, and a lot of times he would say that we were so kind that we showed the newcomers how to survive over here. We shared what we have.
Mm-hmm.
But then the 2 row and the 3 figures, it was a way of signifying, okay, so, well, we'll do this for you, but we're the ones that are going to lead the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or we're going down here together.
Or we're going down here together.
Yeah, you're not interfering.
Yeah, but we're going to be showing you how to live here sustainably, for one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're the ones that knew here
That's it.
and that.
Yeah.
So-
and then because we practice natural law,
Yeah.
you know, and come back to like I was telling Caron, is we never harvest more than we needed, you know, and we always took into account the next generations to come, and you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Like I was
Yeah.
told, you have 5 fingers, you leave 5, you take the 6.
There you go.
You got your yardstick with you, you know, that you're going to measure what you're doing, you
Yeah.
know, and stuff. Yeah.
And so that's kind of stuff I grew up around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for my people, when Champlain first came, and our Grand Chief, member 2, they had discussions and whatever, and Champlain went back to France, and he came back, and they were shocked and surprised that nothing had been touched, that everything was the way it had been left.
Right.
In Port Royal and that. And one of our early, I guess you'd call it a treaty, they call it a concordat, is with the Vatican. And so it was to protect the priests that came over And for the Mi'kmaq people, it was Jesus' teachings was additional to the Four Directions teachings and was not incompatible in terms of that circle of life, one giving for another.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there is sort of that understanding. But the other thing I think was that I've heard that we have bowls, and there's a game and stuff that you can play with the bowls, and it's called Voltus. And I think that there's that some of the Puonak, the spirit people, like the medicine people, could like scry and vision travel. And so, but we also had people who were taken early who went to Europe and came back, and they told us about how big Europe was and what it was like. And so I think it was a way of negotiating an existence nation to nation, because at that point in time, the Vatican, it's Vatican City, it's a complete separate nation from Italy. And so it was like nation to nation. So I don't know whatever happened after that, because it seems as though it's been kind of ignored, or I don't know whether, you know, over history, like the separation of church and state, that the church went corrupt, but that the church wasn't really in control of the kings and the powers to the same extent. But our people ended up in residential schools and all that kind of stuff as well. So I find it very hard. I find it really painful to see and hear what the church has done. And on the one hand, for some people, it's given them some solace, you know, at the same time. But they stand on that treaty, or it's being more promoted with the Grand Council because of acknowledgement of nation to nation. And I think that's important, but somehow things got off the rails and and whatever. So, you know, it's extremely painful. But in terms of when we first met, not first met, because I've seen of you before, but not like we didn't really have a chance to talk and engage. But when we were at Silver Lake there, when you were there with Plenty Canada, and I saw, you know, this is what Kingston needs. This is this, you know, 7 fires, you know, and whatever. I could see that, and I promised you, I said, I will do what I can to make this happen. But I don't know how the heck I'm going to do it, because with the brain injury and whatever, the organizing and planning, whatever is not really good. It's a big project, right? So when I ran into Mary, and Mary asked me about talking about this canoe builder, this or that or the other, it was like, oh, here we go. And prayers are being answered. This is going to, like, you know, coordinate here. Something's going to happen. And of course, you know, when things are supposed to happen and spirit's asking for things to happen, sometimes there's friction and there's opposition, and you know, you have to decide if you're really going to try and stick with what spirit's asking you to do. And sometimes there's big lessons, and you know, it's humbling, but it's very rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, well, some of the messages are not only coming from there, but elders. They say it's time that we start talking about these belts again. Problem is, we won't be able to access the belts William had. My Aunt Evelyn has that and will not release them. So what's suggested, maybe we find somebody to make replicas, and so we can bring the stories out again.
With a visual.
With the visual. We'll have the visual. It's not the original, but this is...
It's a visual.
Yeah.
So here at Queen's, I've seen 3 people come with replicas of different belts. and talk about.
Yeah.
And so I've been finding it difficult because the way history has sort of gone, the eastern provinces is sort of forgotten and neglected, right? And so our peace and friendship treaties, because my nation is spread over 5 provinces, the federal government's not speaking up and taking a firm stance on our behalf. And so you have to negotiate with each individual province. And so there's, fighting over salmon fishery at Listigouche, you're fighting over lobster fishery, you're fighting over lumber, you're fighting, and what you're accessing is this. And what Canada's accessing is this.
Yeah.
And what the rest of the fisheries on the Grand Banks coming over from Europe and everywhere is accessing is this. And they say, what we're accessing is going to endanger
Yeah. 'Cause
the
I followed that
resource,
for a while.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's really, really frustrating that way, that it's kind of happening that way. I can't remember now exactly where I was going with this conversation.
No, I think that's
Oh, the replicas of the wampums and treaties and things coming out. Here's the thing is I'm really not too sure how our treaties and our wampum belts tie into the bigger picture. Because you'll see sometimes they'll call it a covenant chain, which they're meaning like a continuous number of treaties that are connected over time, being a chain. And then you'll hear them say, the Silver Covenant chain, which is a specific wampum belt.
Well, I thought there was something with a 3-chain link or a 3-link chain. That's not the covenant chain?
I'm not 100% sure because I thought that as well, and then I saw some other photo. And so to kind of try to sort some of that stuff out is like really tricky, right? So I've discovered a Ganawagi Wabanaki belt that the Penobscot would carry on behalf of our confederacy.
Yeah.
The Wabanaki Confederacy to go to Ganawagi, and the Ottawa were considered the grandfather over that relationship, but Ganawagi was where the council fire was held.
Now, this belt was formed when the Mohawk got to Ganawagi?
I'm assuming.
So this would have been, 200 years ago
Yeah,
or less?
yeah.
Yeah. Because the Mohawks weren't really originally there, right?
No, they weren't originally there. And so to try and understand how some of the things happened, right? And then, some of the people that I've talked with are doing it from the Mohawk way, or the Mohawk perspective. And then other people are doing it from the Ojibwe perspective, but I'm not sure how our eastern part ties in to that in terms of a chronology or how in terms of how it's interconnected. But for myself, I consider it all sacred, especially if it's done in wampum, and the relationships are in there.
Well, personally, I think
For lessons to
the
learn.
Mohawk are interested in only them. You get a couple individuals who will make that trek and actually agree that we had treaties amongst each other. Yeah, there's only maybe 2 people I met so far that believe in that.
Okay.
And the rest think that, they've been here since time immemorial. Well, okay, you were here since time immemorial, but not here. You were down more towards upper New York State.
Yeah.
Or mid New York State, wherever.
Yeah.
Because from the learnings I did in school, there was raids going on both in the St. John River Valley, and that's why the Mi'kmaq formed
A confederacy with.
the Wabanaki Confederacy. Yeah, it was to keep an eye on the Mohawks because there was raiding going on back and forth until some kind of, must have been some peace treaties that were formed.
Some kind of resolution.
Yeah.
Well, if it was with Ganawagi, then it might have been because they were more Christianized. They were separate from the Mohawk Valley.
Ganawagi?
Yeah, the Ganawagi.
Yeah. Well, they would have had the religious influence by then, no?
Right.
Yeah.
So
when the Jesuits originally came in here, it was to Christianize us, convert us.
yeah, but I mean there was a bit of a split, I think, within the
nations.
Haudenosaunee peoples, that the more Christianized ones went north to Kahnawake and Akwesasne, and
Yeah.
but I'm not.
And we know during the French and English wars too, because ones took sides with the other, and that's why. Well, that's. Yeah, I heard they were granted land because they sided with the English.
Here,
the
in the
Engli-
War of 1812.
this would have been even before.
Oh, before that.
Yeah, I think you go back to 1750 something there, the Plains of Abraham.
Are you are you talking about Lake of Two Mountains?
Well, it would have been all that included.
Okay.
Yeah, and the French and the English were fighting because the English came here and then they left. Then the French came in, right? In 1530 something. Then the English came back because they didn't want France being over here.
I didn't realize that the English came in first.
Yeah, it was Cabot.
Okay.
Yeah, but he
But is he English?
actually he was
Italian.
Italian. Yeah, and so it's funny the English would send in something like that, but I mean, no risk to our people. You're Italian. If they cap you on, yeah. And so he went back, and then it's like England had no interest in the new world, but France got a wind of it, and they sent Cartier, Champlain, and all these famous explorers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden England wanted back in.
Well, they were running out of furs. They'd already furred it out.
Well, there you go.
In the Maritimes, they'd already furred it out.
Yeah.
You know where the 13 colonies were.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And they were
the Mohawk
using
were
a huge oak over here for their shipbuilding too.
and stuff.
And stuff.
So for the in terms of the build, there are other people who build canoes, but we had decided, because Mary had a relationship and I had a relationship and whatever, but it worked well because the fur trade, from the perspective of the fur trade came from the east and came this way. So it had to go through Algonquin territory, and Algonquin for up through here to the Ottawa River and all of that.
Yeah.
The whole reason that Kingston is here is because of the indigenous knowledge of the waterways, and because this inner harbor area was traditional gathering space where all the multi-nations would come together for diplomacy and trade.
Yeah.
And so it's been a little bit hard with COVID, not being able to share a lot of the interpretive panels, or to not have been able to have our launch weekend and have a chance to discuss, you know, Algonquin culture a little bit, but mostly, you know, the inner harbor as a historical gathering space and the diplomacy and everything that would have gone on here. In terms of Kingston, you know, there's sort of this jockeying going on between whether or not it's Haudenosaunee territory or it's Mississauga territory, or who was here first and who wasn't here, or who moved back and forth or whatever. I don't know that necessarily matters. It's just that whoever was here at the time would have more or less played host to the negotiations between all the nations that were coming.
Exactly.
And I think that needs to be recognized and honored.
Yeah, but
And-
see, now we're dealing with the warrior society, with the Haudenosaunee, and try to get through to them.
Don't let me
You
stop
know.
you, but it's too dark to record anymore.
Okay. What about the audio? Does the audio go
I'll
still?
leave it running.
Okay, because then you could have that part for something else if you wanted.
I'm gonna put that away.
Yeah, from there. And so, yeah, so that's what we're kind of, you know, wanting to talk about, that kind of thing. And then, you know, within the fur trade, this particular canoe, in the interpretive panels, I'm talking that it's a Wabanaki Chiman style. So it's influenced by Abenaki, which are part of the Wabanaki Confederacy.
Right.
But this is the reason we did this particular canoe was because for the non-Indigenous people, they would recognize this as iconic shape and size and style or whatever of what they would be used to. And so we could try to translate and for them to be able to acknowledge and honor the technology. And hopefully with the launch weekend, the second day, including other nations and using the topic of canoes in our lives as the starting point for discussion to share within all the nations that happen to be in Kingston or across Canada.
Yeah,
The differences in our canoes and why we had, certain ones for shooting rapids and certain ones for on the lake and certain ones for on the ocean.
Yeah,
And
for the big waters.
yeah, whether you've had a huge family or a war party or you needed to go fast or you had a big cargo to carry.
Yeah.
But that the Algonquin and Abenaki peoples and others were commissioned or conscripted, I don't know what you'd call it, to do the voyageur canoes in Trois-Rivières
Yeah.
for the building. And so
Didn't the Creole make the high nose?
I'm not 100% sure, or whether the Cree influenced the high nose.
Well, maybe they took the original shape from the Abenaki Algonquin, made it so far, and then they seen that high nose up there, and maybe they came to the realization they liked that one better.
Yeah, and I'd like to, ultimately investigate that and ask.
Yeah.
You know, but the ability to adapt the technology for what it is that you need, I think, is fabulous.
Yeah.
And we're still.
The bad thing about it, I find, is we don't have a frickin' written history.
Yeah.
And if we did, we'd probably put them on Birch Bark Skulls, which deteriorate after time.
Well, they could, but there's probably some farther west that are hidden with the migration.
We would hope so.
With the migration.
Yeah.
And, I think right now, whether they talk about truth and reconciliation, I think we're still in the truth phase.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of more information that's going to come out. And it's a little bit scary to think of sharing sometimes, because the colonized mind has taken advantage of what's been shared.
That's a friggin' understatement if I ever heard one myself.
And I try not to say white, because there are some
That are
white-faced indigenous, and there are white-faced white people who are not necessarily as colonized, but that white colonized mind.
good. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I tried to treat everybody the same. No, Michelle?
I know. I think. Anyways, I thought I'd give you this too. I have it in
Okay.
my computer, but
Now
it was.
she's coming down, eh?
Yeah. Now she's coming down. I think now she's saying that.
This is to be continued. Eh?
Yeah. Ongoing to be continued.
Yeah, because I like this kind of topic.
Here you go.
Thank you very much.
There we go.